Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore used to be just a
Welcome.
made-up word. MCs tried to
We're back to some OC content. Marvel finally stopped releasing 2 to 3 damn original series per week, so we can get back to original content.
I'm so excited.
I am extremely excited, and I'm very, very, very excited for today.
You've been talking about it a
Well,
lot.
I've been talking about this a lot. I've been talking about our guest a lot. I absolutely love this person. I adore this person. And I like to think I've made friends with this person. This person may think otherwise, but you know what? It's like you and me. Like,
Yeah, I still let you think you're my friend.
yeah, I appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
I appreciate it. Trust me, I'm getting old. So welcome to Every Man's Guide to Nerddom, where we are two 30 to 40 something year olds who talk about pretty much whatever we want. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle, and you guys might know us or can catch us online on the Twitches. We got Guyver, GUYVERUNT01 over there, and I stream under KSIG, that's K_SIG, and our guest also streams. So we're excited about this. We got a lot of things in common, and then a lot of interesting things to learn about tonight. So
Super
you guys
excited.
are in for a treat. I'm excited. I can barely contain it. I don't know if you can tell, but I can't. And
Yeah, you talked about it on your stream last night.
I did. I brought it up and talking it up and telling all my friends, all 7 of them, that when this comes out, they really need to listen.
You have friends?
Yeah. Well, like 7.
Oh, 7. Well, that's more
Yeah.
than me.
Yeah.
I'm getting old.
I know.
So what are we talking about today? Is what you may be asking, or you may not be asking. You're just listening to us ramble on like normal. So I'm going to tell you. Today we're talking about drag queens or drag culture. And in particular, the career of one very special queen. Kyle, how much do you know about drag culture?
Not a lot, I'm going to be honest. But what I do know, because like I'm in a very small, confined corner of it, like you're in a more populous area, right? There's not a lot of anything outside of normal small town life where I'm at. So all my experience comes from watching competition shows on TV, pretty much anything that's out there like that. But you know, that's kind of like the limit of my experience. But it's very interesting to me. And so we can, go off if we want to just go off like a standard definition if we wanted to. But drag queens or kings are defined as a performer, typically a man, who adopts a flamboyant or erotic feminine persona with glamorous or exaggerated costumes and makeup. And so the glamour side of it, one, is interesting to me, but the other side of it another facet of it with the guest that we have today was extremely interesting to me, because that's right up my alley there.
So we actually have, I'm lucky enough to where there's drag shows close to me. So it's really cool. But today, our extra special guest, we're going to introduce her. I first got introduced to her on Dragula when it came on Netflix. From there, I started following her on Instagram. And then I found out through my weird, what you do when you get older is Facebook, Instagram stalking, that she has a Twitch channel. And I started hanging out in her Twitch channel, and it is so much fun. And we'll talk about that a little bit later here on the show.
Yeah.
But she's an incredibly, incredibly talented drag queen and artist. And let's preference by saying drag is art. Art is subjective, and drag is art, because it takes an incredibly talented person to do this. We'll go into this a little bit later too. So we want to introduce the lovely, talented Erika Klash.
Hello, hello.
Hello,
Hey.
hello. So thank you so much for agreeing to do our little nerdy show. First
Mhm.
off, we
Sure,
really
sure, sure.
appreciate you taking time out of your day, your busy day, to come and talk to us and impart your knowledge about, well, everything that you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm any excuse for me to talk shit, but also to like spread, but also to spread the message, because maybe like there are people in your network that don't know a lot about drag, and I always appreciate those moments when I can share, you know, the under the hood stuff, because I think people see drag on TV, on the competition shows and whatnot. It looks very easy, it looks very glamorous, but there are sides of it that are not glamorous. But also there's like all these little experiences that people just don't know about unless you've lived it. So I'm excited to share all that.
Well, we are also going to talk about not just drag with Erika, because there's more to Erika than just drag. Erika also, like we said, streams, a lover of Nintendo, Metroid, Pokemon, which it's so much fun to watch her. You guys need to really check it out. Everyone needs to check it out. So with that, Kyle, you want to start off?
And so just, and you kind of hit it just like a little bit, Erika, but just in your words that describe drag.
Drag, to like make it sort of a overarching, you know, what is a big overarching thing? It's the art of transformation. And I think like I always like what Sasha Velour said about drag. She said it's the art form of the queer imagination. Like it is an art form that is part and parcel with queer culture and with queerness. And regardless of what your gender is out of drag or the gender that you like to put forward on stage, it always comes back to transformation. How do you, with makeup, hair, fashion, and a few other tips and tricks, like, you know, tucking or binding or whatever it is, how do you create a character on stage? And I always think about drag as well, being a theater kid, as like being a one-person theater company where you have your hand in every little part of the process. And those 4 minutes on stage is your, you know, artistic vision as a theater artist in that moment. At least that's that way for me, because I have that very theater-ish attitude towards it.
That's awesome. We want to go, as we get on a little bit too, I want to go into your background into theater too. So you can tell us exactly how, you know, everything that happened and why it happened and why you chose to do what you do.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you're a little kid growing up, a little boy, people always want to put sports on you. And I always resisted that. I always was not into it. My mom put me in golf because she felt like I needed something that was strategic, as opposed to like physical. And that was fun for a few years. And then she kind of not forced me, but she said, you need to be in the arts somewhere. Because I always had a talent for writing and things like that. And so she said, maybe, you know, the arts are your place. So when I was 14, she put me in an arts activism program in the South Bronx where I grew up. And that changed everything. We were putting, doing devised theater pieces about social issues. And that's, you know, how I became a theater kid. I mean, I also had done like the school plays and things like that as well, 4th, 5th grade and whatnot. I did school play in high school. So there was that interest in acting early on. And then there was also that interest in writing early on. And yeah, then I went to NYU for playwriting and screenwriting. Oh, wow. So I have more of a writer's background than an actor's background, although I've done acting, you know, and obviously in school and whatnot. But and then drag was like a way to kind of bring it all together. Like I can be this performer on stage, but I'm also like writing or like developing a character and performing a character. So it was like all these really cool elements. And even now, like with, you know, when I go to venues, it's always a treat when the venue has lighting cues, and because not every venue has those things, right? Sometimes you're performing in somebody's garage or what have you. So I always love to bring the most that I can in terms of like all those theatrical elements, really set the stage, set the scene. And yeah, that's a big part of my drag. Certainly.
Let's go off on that for a second here too. And by the way, Erica just killed 2 of my questions with that.
Oh my god!
Just in one, no, it's great. It's great. This is the kind of natural flow I want to have, so I
Good.
don't seem robotic.
Right.
But I kind of want to break off into this a little bit. So you said that, you know, sometimes it might be in someone's garage. It might be, you know, at a little dinky venue. It might be at a big venue.
Right.
How does that work out? Like, do you get invited to these? Do you get say, hey, we'll pay you to come perform. I need you here. How does that work? How do you go about booking like someone like yourself?
Yeah. So, you know, for me, I've started to work with an agent who can handle certain bookings, but I also handle a lot of my own bookings as well. Historically, like after season 2 of Dragula, you know, I hadn't really worked with a manager. I learned it all, doing it all myself. So that's where like you really start to feel like a one-person theater company when you're doing the bookkeeping and the contracting and the actual work that people see on stage, right?
Right.
And that's like the blessing and the curse of like being an independent artist and not working under someone. I mean, the Dragula brand is something that definitely is enmeshed with my quote unquote brand. I tend to not think about it as brand as much as about like creative signatures and creative like elements that are always through lines in my work. But anyway, the idea is, yeah, you email me and we talk about dates, we talk about booking fees, and then we start drawing up a contract. I have a standard contract that I use that just covers all the bases of what are the terms in terms of like airfare and travel, lodging, all those details. That way everyone knows what the expectations are up front. And I think it's important to like, as an artist, have those professionalism skills. People tend to think about what we do as just, you know, messy gays in a bar acting a fool, which it can be that. But there is a business to it as well. And so having a business like attitude about it can pay off in the long run because it's just easier for people to book you. But it's also just good to put that vision forward of like, this is a business and we take what we do seriously, even if we don't always take ourselves seriously.
Right.
So, and then, yeah, once we get the contract sorted, and all the like business details and logistics, then it's like, okay, well, what are your technical capabilities at the venue? So there's a little checklist, like, do you have blacklight? Do you have strobe lights? Do you have this and that? So like just the different details. And then I start to think about, well, what numbers do I want to bring? And usually that's tied to what costumes do I want to bring, because my characters are so specific and they go with the performances that I'm doing most of the time as well.
That's so cool to hear, because I just know that there are people out there that have this vision in their head of what drag is, what the performance is, and there's just so much more to it. And you laid probably I'm going to go out on a limb and say you didn't even lay it all out there of everything that goes on, and just the whole performance and production and prep aspect of it, that there's just so much that goes into that.
Yeah, and what we haven't
even
talked
think
about is
about
the day of the show.
Yeah.
Right. So like I spent all this time getting the logistics and the business stuff done. Then I'm curating my show, packing it up into suitcases, bringing it. And then you're dealing with those day-to-day logistics of the show. Where do I get ready? All that stuff. So, but it's incredibly satisfying to know that you know, it's sort of like the traveling circus in Dumbo, where they just set it up real fast and then it's gone like the next day. That's kind of how it feels when you travel and do shows.
They give you the feather and you're just off.
Yeah, like you just it's that scene where they're like hammering all the tents in, and then so that's you like getting your makeup on and all that stuff. And then like I drop into a place maybe for like 1 or 2 days, or you know, if I'm doing a working vacation, maybe I stay a little bit longer. But yeah, you just kind of drop in and like you get a barometer of what the queer community is like in that city.
I just had this like mental image of just drag carnies everywhere, setting up tents and
drag carnies.
Yeah, like, you know, people with makeup wipes and
That's awesome though.
Yeah.
So another reason I love Erika, she just made a Disney reference. She knows her shit. Everyone. Love her.
Now I'm scared to release the Disney episode. I may keep that
In the vault.
keep our Disney. Yeah, keep that in the vault. I don't
Well,
know.
that's
if I
just a
wanna let
Disney movie episode, so
Yeah.
If we-
No, but I do have like a borderline like obsessive relationship with trivia and the histories of and the background and the lore. I'm that nerd that likes to do the deep dive. And so sometimes that means my frame of reference is like a little bit more specific. Like I
Mhm.
may not know certain things that maybe other people know. Of course, everybody's frame of reference can't include everything.
right,
Mhm.
right.
But I just like to go deep dive into everything.
we
Would
do
you like
that.
to tell Erica about our show real quick? What we
Oh,
do,
like
how
how
that's
we-
similar?
We veer off and go down a rabbit hole, and we're talking about like a Marvel movie 1 second, and then how Dave Coulier was the inspiration for No Scrubs by TLC. Like in 30 seconds later, how we kind of go down that.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
how we'll deep dive into stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're very similar.
One thing leads to another thing, and then you're just all the way down the rabbit hole. And
Yeah.
that's why we have the list. So Chris has it, because if he didn't have that, we'd be stuck. We would
Yeah.
never come back out of the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And-
Well, with
Well-
the Metroid series recently, I hope I keep it concise. I try to,
You do.
but
you do.
it's just so much fun to just connect all the dots in a universe. So like whether that's Godzilla or anything else. My sister's a big Star Wars nerd, so like doing that with her too is really fun, and I just enjoy that a lot.
So something that's really cool that Erica does on her channel, she plays through the Metroid series,
Mhm.
but she gives you the background on all of it.
See, that's what I
how
need.
it connects. It is so cool. Like I didn't know when she was playing today. She was playing Metroid. Was it Metroid 2?
Metroid Fusion, which
Metroid
has a lot
Fusion.
of echoes from Metroid 2 though.
So she was at this part where they were talking about how Samus's suit was taken over by this parasite.
Mhm.
I had no idea. I always just played the game and watched it.
See, yeah, like what I can remember is being a, short, chubby little 5-year-old bearded kid playing with my little Square NES controller, and I think it's as far as I got. Like now, I want to get back into.
Ooh, Nestroid is just the beginning. Like those games are actually one of the most unforgiving ones because there's no map and it's very archaic, hasn't aged as well. That's why they remade it in the 2000s.
Oh, okay.
So we did Metroid Zero Mission, which was the remake of that. And yeah, we've been going through the entire 2D Metroid series. And now we're basically like perfectly set up for Metroid Dread. But we're going to go back in the timeline and now tackle the Prime games, which I have not played. So that'll be quite interesting.
That'll be fun. So have you ever done a Metroid, either Samus or a Metroid or a Mother Brain drag?
When I was starting out in drag, I
Mhm.
must have bought like a cheap Zero suit, from the internet.
Right.
And so I did an attempt at it. But at the time, honestly, I had not really had my like immersion period Metroid where I was really getting immersed in all
Right.
the lore and everything. So now, I mean, we were talking about, Ridley's one of my mains in Smash.
Mhm.
I would love to do like Ridley, or I've even thought about like a Mother Brain look with the broken glass and
Right.
everything. But that's like it's kind of nebulous how exactly I would pull that off. I mean, Ridley makes I could see that translate to drag a little bit more. You just have
Right.
to really do a lot of work with the wings.
So the only thing I could think of for
Hell.
Mother Brain would be from Captain N, the Game Master, that version of Mother Brain with the big lips and the big eyebrows.
Yeah, so it was a question of like, to what degree are you faithful to the character, and to what degree do you want to make it drag? And like that's the fun in between where my drag lives, because I don't always enjoy doing a one-to-one interpretation of a character.
Right.
I always think about like, how do I glamorize it or make it more drag, or like take an inhuman shape and impose that on the human shape in a drag way.
It's phenomenal.
Thank
It
you.
really is. Kyle?
So we'll kind of round back over to, I guess, talents and performances and things as far as just like in the world drag. Like some queens they're good at sewing, some are good at makeup, some are good at lip sync, like, and some bring all those together. What of those skills or any skills that we haven't mentioned would you say actually defines Erika Klash?
I think for me, it's been the makeup and sound design, because I unless I'm doing like a longer show where it's me hosting it and sort of doing number after number, I tend to not just do a song. It's always a performance. So it's a mix of musical lip sync and then lip sync of the spoken word. So whether that's like film clips or different references, I'm always melding references into something. And makeup, I think, is my favorite among like the sort of the tactile disciplines of drag, because there's like wig design, there's sewing. I'm not like the greatest at those things, but I do have some knowledge in those areas. I did get into sewing in like right before Dragula, basically, and thank goodness that I knew how to work a machine for Dragula, because you know it's just handy.
Right.
But yeah, makeup for me is the big one.
So she brought it up. This is a little bit further down on the questioning here, Kyle. So you can check that one off. Let's talk about makeup. I know that there's a difference, but I don't know what the difference is between regular makeup that, like, let's say my wife would wear.
Yeah.
And drag makeup. What's the main difference? Because I know, doesn't your makeup have to be a little bit thicker? I've always heard it has to be like a little bit thicker so it doesn't melt under like all the lights.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it comes down to like, well, as an actor on a stage, like in a theater production, they would, for the same reasons, they would need like a thicker makeup.
Right.
Maybe what the look that they're doing is more fantastic. That's certainly the case for drag most of the time. But yeah, I think it's the functionality of it. Like, you know, makeup that's every day, you don't want it to look heavy because people are also seeing you up close.
Right.
So unless that's your gig and you want to be like beat for the gods, you know, you're gonna go for something a little bit lighter, or, you know, even honestly, a lot of women or just people in general who wear makeup tend to just keep it simple, a little tinted moisturizer or concealer. But they wouldn't necessarily do like a whole painting on a whole eye or like contouring really fierce and things like that.
So if you all haven't, I've been to at least one stream I know of yours where you basically create your own makeup.
Yeah.
And it's not mixing together stuff like you would think. It is intense. And I invite you all to watch Erika's stream and watch her do that sometime. Like, it's not, I was getting tired watching you. I really was. I'm like, because you would think it's like kind of like you or I mixing paint. No, not at all.
Dude, have you seen me try to mix paint?
Yeah, I have, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay, we don't, yeah.
Although I do mix, I do mix my colors custom. So like all my pastels, and we've actually done it on stream. We have a crafting VOD on the channel where I show you like the finished product. They're all in little makeup canisters. But yeah, makeup takes time also.
And it's not cheap.
No, and it's not cheap. Yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of materials that you need, and yeah, I mean you're buying like stage grade stuff, so it's, you know, like that clown white that I use is like thick, and yeah, it's quite expensive.
Kyle?
So like we've kind of hit on it a little bit, and so but this way we can say like we really like nailed it down, because we've talked about some of the characters and things that you do in a roundabout way up to this point, but just for the people listening that may not be familiar, how would you describe the type of drag that you do?
Well, first of all, it's very colorful. And yeah, it always comes down to like video game inspired, anime inspired, you know, Harajuku inspired, like all the Japanese street fashion, like the countercultural nature of that artistic movement, and sort of melding those things with drag and like the ways that drag can be countercultural. I always want to lean into that. And yeah, colorful, animated, graphic. I like to think of it as like a living cartoon, you know, so like what are the different ways that I can kind of bring that into the third dimension?
So I know a lot of people are probably thinking, this kind of leads into our next question too. A lot of people are probably thinking, how hard can drag be? You know, you're just putting on makeup, you're doing this, you're just pretending to be a woman, or you're pretending to be a man. You're just, you know, pretending to be something.
Yeah.
As you just heard from Erika, there's a lot of thought that goes into her performance. She's an artist. And did you hear how many things she's pulling from? Like, Kyle, you and I, for this podcast, we pull from lots of little things, but nowhere in depth like this. And that's what just floors me about how well thought out this is.
It's a full.
Oh, thank you.
That's something that like I've learned, you know, not like it's a full performance. It's not just a walk down the runway. Like from what you're describing, like there's so much more that goes into it than that. There's so much more that like people may not see with a full stage performance with production and lights and music and that is so cool to learn about.
So that brings me to my next question. I know the answer, which I think is yes already, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Erika. Do you think there's a stigma attached with drag? Like when people hear the word, I'm watching a drag show, like I'm watching Dragula, I'm watching RuPaul's Drag Race, I'm going to a drag show. Do you think there's a stigma attached to that? Like, just like, you know, oh, it's weird. You can't, you know, what are you doing?
I don't think as much anymore. I mean, obviously in places that are more less accepting of queerness and whatnot, of course, to them, you're gonna hear those kinds of things. But drag is so trendy these days. I don't think to say that you're like a consumer of drag, it's like, oh, how fun. Is my thinking of like how it's, you know, just an average person to react. Like, oh, fun, a drag show. They maybe have an idea of like what that is based on things that they've seen. Even if they don't like fully know or understand. But I think like being as someone who is in the art form and then introducing yourself as I'm a drag artist, I think sometimes there can be a little bit of a stereotype of like what kind of person is in that line of work. You know, associations with drugs and alcohol, which, you know, for some people they partake, of course. But you sort of create those associations of maybe that person like doesn't or can't hold down like a job, quote unquote proper job, things like that.
So let's jump to that. That's a perfect segue, Kyle, to that question. Where is that question that I had? You would think that I didn't write half of these questions, me looking for it, but I know what I want to say.
Well, it's kind of hit and miss all over. And
yeah.
That's
Well,
that's why we have the list.
So there it is. So jobs, quote unquote, proper jobs, air quotes there. How do you make money in drag? Do you make enough money for, and if we're being offensive in any way, forgive me. And I, you know, that is not our intent. It's just, we're just curious.
Yeah.
How do you make money in drag? Like, do you have to get another job, like a regular 9-to-5 job or an 8-to-5 job? Do you have to take as many gigs as you can? How do you get income from drag? Do you have to supplement it somehow? Do you make enough to live off of? I'm just curious.
Yeah. And it's a journey of like figuring that out, you know, still. Number one is you have different revenue streams, right? So like I'm able to monetize Twitch, you know, and I'm thankful for that because not only do I enjoy it, and I felt like it's something that honestly was missing from the equation, like a way to share my love of games because I am such a video game inspired artist. So there's like Twitch, you know, you can sell merch, you can, you know, you can do cameos. I'm on Cameo, so like things like that. But the majority of, you know, how to make your bread and butter is by traveling. And so a big part of that is because you're going to that city for that one night. You know, your name on a marquee has a certain level of value to that venue, that establishment that wants to book you. And so you're able to negotiate a booking fee. And so depending on those kinds of things, or if you can manage like a weekly booking, monthly bookings. Those kinds of things tend to be the bread and butter of like how you make most of your cash. For me personally, you know, I've worked the 10 to 6 fantasy. I did that for a year, like right before I moved to San Francisco. And then when I was in San Francisco, I did events for an art center in downtown San Francisco. And that was an amazing experience, because, you know, not only did I love my coworkers, I love my work, you know, I really do enjoy and think that there's something healthy for me personally about doing events, but from the offstage perspective. So I can enjoy it. But, you know, ideally, I would love to do it full time. Honestly, right now with the pandemic and everything, it's still kind of up in the air.
Right.
So I'm on a personal journey right now of like figuring that out and what that is now, because 2019 was a great year for drag, like, you know, for me in terms of like getting those bookings and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, 2020 was way different. So yeah, it's a journey. But yeah, a lot of people do work side jobs. I think it tends to be difficult to like do a full-time thing if you're on that mode of traveling for gigs a lot, because then you're restricted to the weekends, or like if your job requires you to be there on weekends, that's a challenge as well. So you know, jobs that are flexible, jobs that are more on the part-time scale tend to be a little bit easier to manage with drag. But then it's like, because we live in the United States and healthcare is a fucking scam,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how do I then, even if I am working really, really hard, because I don't have a full-time job and I'm not allowed access to those employer-based health insurance because we're freelance.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, the economic challenges are a big deal. I was a union leader when I worked at my art center job, and doing that while also developing drag as a business was interesting, because you have to know how to advocate for yourself as someone who's selling your labor, right? So I'm like selling my services.
Right.
Yeah. Figuring it out as we speak.
Do you have opportunities? This is kind of going off this, to the skills that you've developed doing this. So makeup skills, your maker skills with your costumes and your props and everything like that. Like, you know, I'm assuming like a lot of this is self-made. Have you found any opportunities to parlay those skills over into other fields, other jobs, like special effects, or even, you know, back into theater? Has that been a thing yet, or is that even a thing that you would entertain?
Not yet, but when I look for jobs, I'm always listing all those transferable skills. So whether that's like social media, that's, you know, that's something that a lot of companies, organizations need help with sometimes, or maybe that's a component of that job. So I do try to parlay those things. I haven't had much of an opportunity yet to do that. But I know, like, for example, if I wanted to look into stage managing, at least having, you know, an extra set of hands on stage, you know, on in the theater, who like knows how to, you know, stitch something really quick or whatnot, that's a great thing to have. So theoretically, it's possible. I mean, there are a lot of, you know, drag artists that work selling makeup, and that's an obvious way that, you know, their passions as well as their skills can kind of align for like a job that's enjoyable, or at least, you know, gets the job done, if
Sure.
in terms of like making money.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. This is kind of, it's kind of a two-part question. So how did you get, let's start off with, how did you get the name? How did you create the name Erika Klash? How did it come together?
So Erika's what my mom would have named me if I had been assigned female at birth.
Oh,
And I just like the name. And then Clash comes from Mario Clash, which was a Virtual Boy game.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know Mario Clash.
Yes.
So yeah, and like the Virtual Boy was, you know, supposed to be this like sort of like revolution in 3D technology. So I felt like it made sense with this idea of like a living cartoon.
So you have just made, by that reference, a lot of our listeners very, very happy.
One of these days we'll have to give the Virtual Boy. I don't even know. Is there a Virtual Boy emulator out there?
Oh, I guarantee you
I bet there
is.
We'll
is,
have to
yeah.
give. Yeah, we'll have to give those games a look on
I
stream
guarantee you
sometime.
there is. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Virtual Boy Emulator. On it.
It's so weird because I'm like I'm such a Metroid streamer. Like it's such a thing for us now. And but then also like the deep cuts that I pull out.
Right.
There is a Virtual Boy emulator that has support for the Oculus Rift.
What?
Chris? Yes. Yes.
So, Erica, I have an Oculus Rift
which is a VR
VR headset.
headset.
It's the one that you don't have to be tethered to a computer for.
Okay, is
But-
it very expensive?
No, it's actually quite affordable. It's gone down. It is way cheaper than the rest of them.
Okay.
So like basically after a month of me supporting you, you could afford it. On Twitch of my donations.
He's so supportive too.
I like to
No
support the
sarcasm.
community.
Like actually, yeah.
I like to support my friends. I like to, if you support the community, it all comes back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Comes full circle. And that's what you have to do. You have to support people you like. You have to support artists. They got to eat too. And so the Rift is a lot of fun. You can also hook it to your computer.
Nice.
And here's the story on that one, which I'm sure even if I didn't bring it up, Kyle would. So Phasmophobia is the game I was telling you about on one of your streams before.
Yes,
It's the ghost
and
hunting.
I added that to my list because now the FNAF is canceled. We got to find some others.
Oh yeah.
So
Forgot about that.
So yeah, no, well, come play with us sometime.
Okay.
Because it's 4-player and it's not as much fun by yourself. It is so much fun with
Okay.
your friends.
Okay.
In groups
It's
of 4.
100 times more fun with Chris when he gets scared, he screams, jumps out of his seat, and lands on things.
My
of
nuts.
himself. Basically, yes.
I land on my nuts a lot.
A lot. And there's probably clips of that. I probably got that clip somewhere.
I guarantee you do because I can start crying.
You yelling and screaming and my nuts. Yeah. I think I got a clip of that somewhere.
Even better. So we tried it. I was setting up I've got it ready so where I can do the VR, the Oculus on Twitch now. And I've got it to where the Twitch chat will appear in the helmet now.
Oh, great.
So you can read what's going on with your chat. If you end up getting one, holler at me and I will help you. Definitely set it up. But I was playing Phasmo with it, and apparently Phasmo knows how tall you are when you go into the game. And I was sitting in my chair, so I went in size of a small toddler.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't get the keys off of the table to get into the house.
That's so silly.
Just reaching one.
And I thought that so Kyle was there watching me along with Blasted Props, another one of our friends. He does cosplay. And they were sitting there watching me and they were making noises. And then I hear this, and I'm like, you guys shut the hell up.
Oh my goodness.
And they're like, what? And I go, quit making noises. Like, we're not making any noises. I'm like, what? And then my flashlight starts going. So Phasmo is scary by itself. In VR, it's about 1 million times more scary.
Oh,
And
my
I believe
goodness.
Kyle's got the clip of me punching at the air, trying to get the thing away from me. And then he goes, you look so defeated when you died.
Well, you were
Oh my goodness.
you were sitting in the garage and you figured out that you could pick up the tube of caulk and you were holding it like so proud of yourself. Like, hey, look, I got the caulk. And they're like, it's so good. I'll have to find it.
So scary. But yeah, no, the Oculus Rift is probably the most affordable out of all the
Okay.
VR.
Okay. I'm going to research that.
Yeah.
So,
Because Virtual Boy, that it doesn't get more deep cut than that.
So, that's going to be awesome. We might have to look into that, Kyle.
And there's Virtual Boy Warrior Land, which is probably one of the better ones on the Virtual Boy that I would love to play someday.
Kyle's looking it up right now.
I'm looking up. Yeah. You know my research look when I'm just like.
So when it comes to research, Kyle's your dude. He will find it.
I'll do the deep dive. I can find it.
You keep looking, Kyle. I'm going to ask Erika this next question.
Planet Virtual Boy. Okay.
So is Erika Klash a character or is she you? Or are you and Erika Klash the same person? Are you intertwined? Like, how does that work out? How do you separate from that?
Yeah, I think of her as like we're two sides of the same coin. So we're distinct. and we're separate, but we also are. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but like it's obviously distinct things, but you're also the same thing when you're a coin, right? So it's like it's hard to like separate. You can't separate them, but they're also distinct and different.
And I know that's kind of a really,
it's like a weird,
it's kind of a trick question.
Yeah, but
Good job,
it's also
Chris.
like a sort of a paradoxical thing.
Right.
It's a releasing of the inner self of an inner self, right? So like those parts of my physicality that I hid, you know, this is why I didn't really dance at functions for a long time, is because I never felt comfortable with my body. I always felt like, you know, I wasn't gonna be accepted for how I wanted to move throughout the world.
Right.
And so like being able to tap into my feminine power through drag, that's amazing.
See, and that's, I think, a common theme for the people who listen to our show. I think that's kind of a common theme, is not being comfortable with who you are, especially growing up. Not being comfortable in your own skin, and then eventually finding that happy place. And that's kind of the whole purpose of our show is, you know, we tell everyone, don't be a dick. Just don't be a fanboy. If you don't agree with it, cool, but just listen to the other side to explain where this person's coming from or where this hobby is coming from. And then make up your mind.
You'll learn so much more.
And you learn more about the people.
And another reason why we wanted to do this show and build this community is that we know there are people out there that like whatever the thing is that they like, whatever the thing is that they geek out over, whatever the thing is that they nerd out over. And it could be so obscure, or it could be even more popular than they realize. But they may still feel alone. Like, I like this thing and I don't know anybody else that likes this thing. I don't have anybody to talk to with about this thing. And all of a sudden we're starting to find people that we're trying to give them a place to gather for that. And now these discussions are being able to happen. Friendships are happening, like good, deep, like real friendships. Because when you bond over something like that, something that you originally yourself think is weird or obscure or taboo or whatever it is, and you find somebody to bond with over that makes life so much better. Just to be able to do that, weird. And it's a little less weird. Or you feel a little less weird, or you're comfortable with it, and that's what we're shooting for.
And I think, like as nerds growing up, we know that feeling of being solitary in our love for something.
Absolutely.
And that's, that was a part of it too. Like video games were an escape, but they were also like, doing that, story deep dive. That was my company in a lot of ways. Because I was very like guarded around other kids, and my sisters were kind of grown up already when I was, at the age where I was getting into video games. So
right. So how many siblings do you have?
I have 8.
8?
Yes, my dad has a lot of children.
He was busy man.
Oh yes.
So yeah, my mom is one of 11, and then my wife was one of. Mom was one of 10, I think. So I feel you on the big families. That's why I stopped at 2.
Same. Like, that's enough. That's enough.
Like, I'm good.
I can't even wrap my head around 1. I'm like, Ripley is a lot.
After my second one, I was like, there's going to be no more of me running around. That's more than the world needs right now.
It's true. No one needs more of you.
I'm raising 2 good little nerds. They're coming along.
Oh, I adore your children. I adore your kids.
They are so nerdy.
You leave a little to be desired, sir.
Well, I couldn't. I had to pass some of it on, and I'm getting old and cranky, and just shit happens.
You do look old. You look older than me, and I'm older than you. I
fucking feel old today, dude. I feel so old today. You have no idea how old I feel today. Older than you, and you're older than me.
That's true. So, Kyle, you want to hit this next one?
So okay, we kind of talked a little bit about this one. Maybe may have several different versions of the answers after hearing how you describe there's not just like a set type of show,
Mm.
right? There's different appearances and different things. So it, how long does a show last would be, I'm trying to think of how to throw this out there. Your typical performance, your typical appearance, how long do you usually try to book for? How long are you usually like in character, in performance?
You do
Or
like
does
a
it,
minimum amount of time?
yeah, like is there a minimum amount of time, or is there something that you shoot for that you feel like I need at least, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to really flesh out the character and relay the vision that you have?
It really, when you're booked for events, most of the time, you're sort of booked as a headliner from like an out of town visitor headliner, among like a cast of local artists.
Mhm.
So it really just depends on what kind of event they're putting on, the event producer, the person that's booking me. Sometimes it's the bar, someone who works for the bar directly. Sometimes it's another drag artist who also directs shows and books shows. So it kind of just depends what they want for that particular event. And usually that, has to do with how long can the bar stay open, or is there like a time limit on how long they have the space for, stuff like that. So like, because again, it's also tied to those liquor sales or the amount of people that pay at the door, all those kinds of things. Those tends to be the things that will dictate how long an event is. But generally speaking, in terms of like the amount of work that I put in, that's 2 to 3, usually 2. But I always give the option, to do 3. And depending on, what I have planned, there'll be like costume changes in between each number usually. Unless I have a very like intricate like body paint and everything, head to toe, that I spent like 6 hours on.
Oh, geez.
Or 5 hours on. But yeah, that tends to be so there tends to be like a minimum, or like a general like idea of like how many performances you have to bring, and then usually there'll be like a meet and greet afterwards, but not always. It just depends.
I was making a mental note because I know somebody that would absolutely love to have you at their venue.
I mean, if there are, venues where you live where you think like, they might, let me know.
Yep. I was like, I thought of it and I got to put this down now or I'm going to forget.
I want to hear about this later.
Yeah, you will.
You want to hit this next one because I really want to ask the question after that.
Okay, so the hard part. Okay, so what? I know it's going to be different for everybody. For you, what is the hardest part about performing, like either in drag or just in general? Like, what's the hardest hurdle for you to overcome? It's like stage fright or prep work, or what is it that's the hardest thing for you getting ready for a show?
Yeah,
performing?
sometimes, it can just be the economic considerations, honestly. Being at a place where, you are doing it as a business, you start to see the ways, and especially traveling and observing how queens are treated where they live. It's really sometimes hard on me. Because sometimes like all the things that are required for us to do what we do, on top of, well, oh, the bar promoter can't put this and this together, can the drag queen do it? So sometimes like the work that we do is thankless, or it's always just sort of assumed that we'll do all the things. And sometimes you can feel a little bit alone when you don't have that support where you're working. And sometimes I can feel like a little bit like drag artists are underappreciated, or they're expected to work for less all the time. And we never ask like, well, why can't somebody who owns the bar take a fucking pay cut, or just find some way to make this work,
Mhm.
to pay your artists fairly. to pay them something. You know, I think that's one of the things that I can kind of choose and say like, well, I would rather just wait for a booking where they can pay the fee that I'm asking as opposed to working for free, but not everyone feels like they have that choice, especially if you're a newer artist. But I feel that regardless of whether you're new or whether you're established, and we see this mentality with a lot of established queens too, of, oh, well, the young queens and kings have to pay their dues and like work for free or put up with nonsense. And I think that's the hardest thing is trying to push back against that as much as I can.
I was wondering about that. If that's something that you run into as an artist, that you hear a lot of other artists in different and different genres and things that they run into where, you know, oh, we'll book you for the exposure.
Right.
You know, we can't pay you, but we'll get your name out there. Is that something that happens a lot? Is that
It happens
sounds
all
like
the
it would
time,
be.
yeah. Yeah, it does. And I mean, depending on who you are, it might be more attractive. Some people that just start out are really, really, really anxious to just get their name out there. So, you know, I mean, I worked for free plenty when I was starting out. I just tried to do the best that I could, right? And as soon as I could secure those like paid bookings, but even then it was like $50. So it's like the cost of doing business really does not add up when it comes to what we're paid. And like the hourly rate, if you were to break it down, what would that be? Does it match? And again, like I have a place of privilege because I was on this platform. I'm able to charge a lot more than, or not a lot more, but a decent amount more than the average local entertainer. So, you know,
you've earned your clout.
Yeah, I mean,
really
and the drag race artists are charging like several times what I charge, so they're really doing well. But there's still a lot of drag, and so like the narrative, especially on that TV show, is, well, you get on Drag Race is your golden ticket to make it. But the reality is that there's so many people still getting taken advantage of. And they have to pick up slack for bar managers or promoters who are unprofessional. And I've seen my share of that, you know, in my 7 years of doing it. And in the last 4 years of traveling and seeing different bars in different cities and different places. So,
yeah.
You know what we call those, Kyle?
What do we call those, Chris?
Dick bar managers.
They're just a bunch of dicks. That's what they are. We got it in there. We've been
waiting for that one.
We've been waiting for the dick joke. It finally came.
But
very appropriate. Okay, go ahead.
So that's another reason we really wanted to do this episode, was to shine some light on, you know, some of the background and what you as a drag artist, what you have to go through. And it's not, you know, this glamorous, it's not always this glamorous thing that you see on TV.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's a reality of like being by yourself in a city you've never been, makeup residue on your face, you're hauling these suitcases behind you, like trying to catch your flight. And that all can be very rewarding. But yeah, people just don't see that side of it.
Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah. I've learned a lot just this episode. Like I came in open mind, like genuinely curious. Like I said, I watched the show up to a certain point, and they're like, fuck them, I'm not watching anymore after this because my favorite person's gone now.
He really did text me that.
I did. Like, I'm done. I can't. No, like, I don't even want it. No, but I enjoyed. Okay, so before Chris gets on to his question, that the show to me like reached me because I'm a horror movie junkie. I love it. I love it. Campier the better. And would you say like anime nerd light, maybe, Chris? Like,
no, I would say you're anime nerd. I'd say you're full.
I'm full on, just like there with it. Yeah. And so to see like those two worlds mesh and with what you were doing was great. The show as a whole was awesome because I love seeing like characters and things develop like that and just the creativity of it. And I laughed so many times just because like it was so entertaining. Like I've told so many people, like if you haven't watched this, you need to go watch this. And this
I've
is
told lots of
why.
people.
And like it's just so I laughed my ass off so many times at just some of the things were just so over the top with like the B horror movie shtick and stuff
Yeah.
that was not taking itself too seriously. And I love that you guys did that. That was amazing.
So, Erika, I would dare to say you got Kyle into drag.
Not physically, like literally into
Yes.
like
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
like maybe
I mean,
I would.
or as we call him, Gandalf. He's one gray hair away from Gandalf.
They're there.
Uh,
They're coming. Thanks for pointing that out again. At least
You're welcome.
my beard looks good. Okay, so
So this is a near and dear question to me because I have thought about this and I cannot figure it out for the life of me. My wife really, really, really wanted me to know this question too. I didn't even think about it.
Okay.
But she said, you have to ask Erika this.
Okay.
So as a young boy, hell, as a teenager, I'm not gonna lie, even as an adult,
even last week,
you know, just because you can, you push your wiener inside your body because you can. I really want to know, this is preferencing this, I really want to know what is tucking and what is, and you said the other thing too, there's
Chest
tucking
binding.
and binding. What is that? How is it done? How does that work? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know chest binding from experience because I don't have breasts.
Right.
But generally that's like some degree of taping and bandaging. Sometimes you'll see like the tape on the outer sides of the breast because it's like pushing it back. And then in terms of tucking, for those of us that have testicles, the testicles have a little there's like a little socket that they can go into. So that's like really, really tucking, which I tend to not do.
Like extreme tucking.
That's like on the more like classical tucking, if you will.
Really?
But like I mean, I used to tuck. I don't really anymore. I don't necessarily think of Erika as like being strictly or like being a female. Like I picture her being a male-bodied person, but there's still some degree of like queerness there.
Right.
So I personally don't, but that's the general idea. And if you wanted to do the quick and dirty, it would just be like push it all back and then, you know, duct tape.
That sounds terrifying. Really, I'm not gonna lie.
Duct tape really does do everything.
I would recommend if you're gonna tuck, I would recommend shaving.
Take notes, Chris.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, well, you would after the first time.
Because you just can't with duct tape. You can't do that to yourself.
Well,
that's a mistake you'll only make one time, Chris.
I cry if I get a haircut in my zipper, but yeah. I didn't even think about that. So it's duct tape too. So my wife will be extremely happy you have answered this question because we have literally pondered this and I had no idea.
Should be more happy if you apply the answer.
That's true too.
But you know, it's one of many ways to create an illusion with your body and transform.
Right.
You know, there's padding. If you're a drag queen who does not have breasts, you would use breast pads, or a lot of us wear hip pads. I tend to not even wear hip pads as much anymore. I do still want to get a new pair because my current pair is old and crusty. I would still like to pad in certain moments, but just not all the time necessarily. I like to also, even sometimes depending on what I'm wearing, I won't wear I'll wear smaller breast pads and kind of, you know, because I don't necessarily think of, as I said, as Erika as like strictly female.
So would you consider Erika non-binary, or just how would you consider that? Because I'm actually fascinated by this.
I mean, I myself identify as genderqueer, and I think of Erika as part of my gender expression. Right?
Okay.
And like part of one way that I express that gender queerness. So I think of her as like still being like having my body underneath it all, right? So like even if I've had
Right.
my breasts or my hips, she still has a male body underneath it. Like I don't necessarily think of her as female.
Okay. Well, and that's great.
But like
to
in
know
terms
for
of
all
gender
our listeners.
identity, like I mean, she goes like when I'm in drag, it's she they pronouns.
Right.
So, and I don't typically, you know, go up play up like the androgynous nature.
Mhm.
I do like her to be very cute and feminine. So I guess also genderqueer, but on the a little bit further on the feminine side, I guess.
And I know I'm asking unfair questions that probably weren't on the sheet ahead of time.
No,
So
I saw that
thank
on
you
the
so
sheet.
much for asking that or
I
answering
think I
that.
saw that on the sheet.
So we do, just so everyone knows, like we try and give everyone a heads up, so there's not a lot of surprises on the show, even though we're fond of them. So we wanted to make sure that we were very respectful to Erika, especially on this one. So it's one of those, you have to make sure you use the right pronouns too. And that's just respectful, and that's kind of human decency at this point.
It is.
You know, respect someone as a human. If this is how this person wants to identify, use the right pronoun. So
It's not
another
hard.
reason we asked that.
It's not hard.
No.
So we'll kind of go on through some. Do you have, Erika, would you like consider that you have like I know you have your family, people that you would consider like a drag family, like your mom, siblings, things like that?
Yeah, I never had a drag mom. I always wanted to be kind of on my own, which has been a blessing and a curse because I've gotten to do my own thing, but I've also had to be self-taught in a lot of things. But you know, I guess like Crimson Kitty would be the closest thing. Like Crimson Kitty, Rock, Kai, like the Paso Gore crew. That's probably the closest that I would have to like a proper gay family. But we're not like there are no official titles or like this is my sister. I mean, I guess you would say like Kitty's my sister, but even Kitty uses they them pronouns now, so it's like she's my sibling. My sibling, she's my or yeah, or she allows me to use she pronouns for her. But yeah, she's probably the closest thing. Like, you know, someone that you can just like sleep in the same bed and like it's just, you know, she reminds me a lot of my actual biological sisters, so it makes sense.
That's cool that you found somebody like that that you can feel like close with and confide in, and that's awesome that you're able to find somebody like that.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And well, that kind of answers.
So that answers the next one.
Yeah. What other queens are you close to? Is there any other queens you would consider yourself really close to? Not necessarily like family, but that you would, let's say, that you talk to on a regular basis, you love doing shows with.
Yeah.
Because I know Erika, and we'll go, this will be a perfect transition too. Erika also has a, was it on Instagram? You did like an Instagram live? Like was it a horror channel? I briefly caught it. I'm trying to find it again. Or was it on your YouTube channel? You have your own, like, can you explain that so you can explain to our listeners so they know what it is? Because I'm trying to find it and I remember.
Are you talking about the videos that me and Kitty did?
Yes, yes, that was it.
Oh yeah, Nerd Alert. Yes. So Nerd Alert, that started as a talk show with myself, Rock'em Sakura, and Kai Kai Michaels. This is back when I was living in San Francisco. So that was, I think, during 2019. We filmed 8 episodes. We did like top 5 most dragtastic Pokemon, divas in video games, so like different nerdy queer topics. And obviously when I moved and then the pandemic and everything, we put that on hold for a while. But then I decided to kind of bring it back. So when Kitty and I hosted Paso Gore Online, which is our monthly digital drag show that we all do. We actually tape the first 2 episodes of the next like batch of episodes, the next season of episodes. So we did top 10 busted Pokemon, and then we did top 5 queer icons in Sailor Moon. So we had a lot of fun with that. And yeah, probably what was it? September, we're hosting the next one. So I'll probably film the next round in September. So it'll kind of be like a quarterly-ish thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's something. So as you all can see, Erika has a lot of interests and a lot of things she does.
And you see it in the channel too. Like the channel has
Yes.
Dragula branding, Godzilla branding, Sailor Moon branding, Pokemon branding, you know,
Oh,
a little bit of
Erika
everything.
and I share a love of Sailor Moon.
Oh my God, I'm such a Moonie.
And our guest coming up next week also does.
Oh, good.
Really?
Mm-hmm. He's done Sailor Moon cosplay
didn't
before
know
on
that.
stream. Yes. Yeah, you think
We'll have to show you who's coming up next week. He's a streamer also.
Slightly more burly than I am, and does the Sailor Moon cosplay was amazing. It was so good.
What did they do? What did they cosplay?
He did as Sailor. I'm trying to think when it was. This was a couple of months ago. I think he did it as like a sub goal. He had. I'm not super familiar with Sailor Moon. I just I kind of know it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And he had advertised that as, I hit a sub goal, and it wasn't like something that he was doing as a gag. Like he had all the shit there ready to go for months. Like he had done it before.
Okay.
And yeah, like it
True
was
fan.
true fan. Like he's true fan. He's a true fan. Super cool dude. We'll fill you in a little bit on him after the show, but yeah, I just the Sailor Moon thing caught me. I was like, oh, he does this. He also does this. So I got excited.
And I can't wait to talk to Erika more about Godzilla, because Kyle and I both love Godzilla.
Oh my God.
Love Godzilla.
I do want to say, since we're kind of on this doesn't fall into that, but this made me think of that. So you showed me the cool shit that you got that was signed and sent to you.
Mm-hmm.
Jet Jaguar. I was so happy to see that. You have no idea how happy I was to see that. Like
that may be the cover for this episode.
It may be. Because we're like I know it from Mystery Science Theater. Chris probably knows it from Mystery Science Theater originally. And
I know it from Godzilla versus Megalon, which I saw when I was like 3 years old.
That's actually where I know it from originally from.
See, I first grabbed it from
Monster Vision.
And I saw it, I was like, I know what that is. That's a thing I know. And I was so happy to see it. Like I was stupid excited when he showed me.
Because it's an amazing.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
It is so good.
That
and
might
spot
have to be our
on.
cover for this.
Thank you.
We're going with that.
So we kind of hit on this a little bit, but on average, how much would you say that you spend on clothing and makeup per month? When let's say the pandemic's gone and you were just doing shows left and right, and it was actually a regular year.
It's hard to give a number because some months are busier than other months, or like sometimes you just have a lot of projects that need investing in a given period. So like if I'm working on, let's say I'm working with a seamstress, which the Jet Jaguar one was made custom for me. I didn't like sew that. But if I'm working with them, then I have to sort of budget that in. That can be a few $100s depending on what you need, or like $100 or $200. Wigs are like about $50 to $100. If you're buying a wig off of Amazon, like completely fresh, unstyled, that's $50 generally.
Jeez.
So then that's also, if you're commissioning someone to style that for you, that's also costs money. Sometimes like if I'm here, like recently I had to reorder some of the stuff I use for my black on my eye. That like cost me like $70 just because I decided to stock up on like a few things, that I use often and that need refilling every couple of months. sometimes there are those purchases, like those things that you don't need all the time, but that you do indeed need. So, and especially being like producing your own content at home, you know, you need your own backdrop, like all that stuff, photography equipment, videography equipment, streaming equipment, like all that stuff
That
gets
is
factored
it.
into.
We know that part.
But the fun part
Yeah.
is it's a tax write-off at the end of everything. So
Yeah. So, and I'm fierce with the deductions. I keep all my receipts. I add everything up,
Yeah.
and you know, that's the best you can do. So
you just see my financials. I don't make jack shit, but I'm writing everything off. Like I've got
Yeah.
a list of all the fun things I bought. Like I'm going to buy that anyway, and so now I can write it off. Like that's how I kind of justify some of my things.
And then he's got an idiot friend, good friend, that will buy all the rest of the shit for the podcast. Especially when we're in, and the idiot friend has 2 thumbs and is sitting right here.
Yeah, that guy.
Because I'm an idiot.
I'm not.
It's good to have idiot friends.
I'm not going to say that on show.
So where all have you traveled with drag? Like, what are some of the farthest locations you've done? What are the most exciting locations? Like, you know, we know you've done San Francisco and you're based in New York. So obviously you do New York.
yeah. Well, last year we went to the UK. That was a huge dream of mine to be able to do that. So we toured all throughout England. We did not get to hit the other countries, unfortunately, but it was still amazing. Myself, Rock Up Sakura from Drag Race, and Jimbo from Canada's Drag Race. I've been to Canada to perform. I went to Berlin to perform as well. That was really crazy. Very interesting.
How do you want to get into that at all, or do you just say you just want to say it was interesting?
I mean, I like looking back on it now, I'm like, oh, you were so early in your career. So like, I was just thinking about, you know, what I would do if I went back now.
Yeah.
But no, the first night was really good. The second gig was at a restaurant type of place, and it was really dead, so it was really strange. The first night was like, I got the experience like being on a big stage and like being in a big club, and people were just lining up to see me, because it was the kind of thing where it was someone introducing like one artist, and we did a whole like 15-20 minute set,
right?
So that was amazing. And then the last night, it was a more like traditional show where it was like a cast of all these different artists, and we each did like, you know, two numbers or so. But I lip synced in German.
Oh wow!
I did a version of my Little Mermaid number in German, and then I did a few other ones, like maybe the Pokemon, like a German.
So awesome!
It was so weird, but
Das Pokemon.
Oh no, I did. You know what it was? I did Sailor Venus, and I did the German intro.
That makes me so
and the German
happy.
attacks. Yeah, it was crazy.
That is so awesome.
Yeah,
so
it was
do you
fun.
know German, or did you have to learn it for this?
My ex is from Germany, and so we were traveling there together, and I managed to, you know, book some gigs.
Right.
And so he was there with me actually for the whole experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I picked up a lot of German from him, his mom and stepfather. Like, we went to visit them and stuff. And so yeah, I picked up quite a bit of German. And then in school, I did like Spanish and French. And then through like anime and my work, because I also, my new, like, not my new obsession, because I've done it a lot before, but my current obsession is like lip syncing in Japanese, like all those bops from the original Sailor Moon anime.
Right.
Like, I'm planning a mix with the song from the ending of season 2, where like Wiseman and Sailor Moon are having that like final showdown.
Yes.
It's such a good one. And yeah, I did for my vampire, I did like Moon Revenge, which I'm sure you know by now.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, that's my
you've got to listen to these.
Like, is getting into not just like the music, but also the lyrics. Like, so reading the translations of the lyrics. How do those lyrics help you put together emotion for your character? Like, and also just, you know, getting to connect with the message of the song.
Right.
I know that would have to be tough, because some of the English translations for some of the theme songs for several shows blows my mind. I'm like, how does that doesn't tie with you know what I'm talking about? Like,
Monkey
Yeah.
pie ice cream.
yes, yeah. Like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? And so I can imagine there's some struggle there to get it right. But so are you, when you're doing these, are you trying to find, because I'm assuming when that happens, that's like a literal translation versus like what it really meant. Like it's just kind of like a shitty translation when things get subbed or dubbed or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, well, for the Sailor Moon songs in particular, I use this website called Miss Dream,
Mhm.
missdream.org. Check them out. And they have pretty good, I mean, it's kind of sometimes clunky, so there'll be times when I sort of change it up a little bit for the captioning.
Mhm.
Because that's the other thing with digital drag that I've been enjoying is getting to add captions so that people know actually what I'm saying through the lip sync.
Oh, and for your
but then-
the characters that you do, that is like perfect.
Yeah,
too,
and I
because you
enjoy
get to
because you're
sub
giving
your
that
own- yeah.
realness. You're giving that realness of this is a cartoon character come to life. Like I'm
Getting to
trying to
watch
really
it.
get in there.
You don't have to get in
And
the
I
sub
love-
versus dub debate
And
with
I
anybody.
love watching the original Japanese when I can.
Mhm.
The cadences, it's you know, it's as the writers wrote it, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So there's something about that I really enjoy.
Oh.
And I'm trying to find the lyrics to the Godzilla Singular Point opening because I actually want to bring Jet Jaguar back for a digital drag moment.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and sort of weave in
Yeah.
a little bit of Godzilla Singular Point because he really was the star
Oh, 100%.
of Godzilla Singular Point, and like no one was expecting that. But
No,
I'm so glad that he was there.
I also wasn't expecting a million Rodans, to be honest, though, either.
No, yeah.
So,
Or
oh,
a
you have-
non-Titanosaurus or a
Yes.
non-Varan. That was like my biggest like complaint about it was I wish that they had kept those monsters as distinct monsters.
would agree.
Even if they eventually, because my theory initially was that the monsters were fusing together.
Oh,
Like
I
that was
didn't
a
even
theory.
think
Well,
about
that wasn't my theory. I didn't make that up. But there was a theory on Reddit that was like, well, what if it's, you know, so we get like that scene with Titanosaurus, or not Titanosaurus, non-Titanosaurus and Manda. And I was like, what if they're just like fusing into the next iteration, and then that next iteration will fuse with something else, and then eventually we're left with Godzilla at the end.
We didn't see the final form. Is where
Right,
we're
like the final form was the amalgamation of all these different creatures.
And
That's what I thought they were leading towards.
as
we're
far
gonna
as
have to do a
anyone knows,
Godzilla episode.
because I bet
Yeah.
that a bunch of our listeners didn't listen or read the Reddit. That was all Erica's idea and her
Yeah.
theory.
All
So
her theory.
total her theory. Anyone who
100%
says
correct,
differently will fight you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's starting to get dark here. Let me turn on my lights because the nano leaves are making me look red
Okay.
and
Yeah,
drunk. Hold on
you
one
got,
second.
you got a little tint to you. You got the glow. So okay, so we talked about where you traveled. You know, we've hit a lot of topics on drag, and we didn't want that to just be the focus
Mm.
of the show. And so let's talk about let's talk about your Twitch. Like,
Yeah.
how'd you get into that? Are you enjoying it? How did you take your skills from the stage
Yeah.
and parlay those over to Twitch?
So for me, like I had done, I think, a gaming and drag panel or like a queer gaming, something at RuPaul's DragCon. This was the year right after Dragula. And so that was my first like introduction to Deer, who was a drag streamer. I didn't know that was a thing at the time, really. I barely knew what Twitch was at the time, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
So 8-Bit Dylan was the moderator of it all. And then, yeah, Deer was there. Bitch Pudding was there with me. I think shortly thereafter, Bitch started streaming. And then I
didn't know.
a,
So bitch is streaming also? I didn't
yeah,
know that.
Bitch Pudding streams. Who else from our season? Anybody else from our season? Did they stream? But Yovska, Eva Destruction, they all stream season 3 monsters. Valencia is doing a lot of amazing digital drag work on Twitch as well,
Mhm.
with the Serve Network. but I had done an event with Twitch in 2019. They booked me for their Pride party, and there I got to like talk to Dylan a little bit more, and I was just like, I really should start streaming. But yeah, then shortly like after that, I decided to like move back to New York, and then the pandemic, and then da. So at the end of last year, I had, you know, done the whole UK tour with Cash, and she is a streamer as well, and that we do Passover online on her channel actually.
Mhm.
So I really picked her brain and was just like, you know what, I really want to put this into focus for like the near future. I want to just get it off the ground, and so I just like with drag, I just decided to just start and just do it.
2020 was a great year to, if you're going to start streaming,
Yeah,
it was a great year to do it because there's
Yeah.
like fuck all else going on, right?
yeah,
Like-
exactly. And I said, I have all this idle time right now. I can set up my stream and like really get into that, and then when things are a little bit more open, hopefully, you know, I can sort of dual path it and you know, get back to work on stage. But as I say, like it really was something that I felt was like, I was like needing this, you know,
Mhm.
this way to like nerd out with people and talk to them. And it really is a chance for like, for those people that really want to get to know me.
Yeah.
To really get to know me, you know, because like outside of just social media, because this is me live for several hours a day. You're seeing and hearing the minutia of like my life. And so that's really awesome.
It's such a fun platform to do, and like I said, you have that natural, you know, panache as an entertainer, and being able to take that, like it's so personal. It can be extremely personal.
It really is, you know.
Especially if, you know, Chris is in your stream or streaming with you at the same time. Sometimes it gets extremely personal. That's
Well, I think one thing
Guyver.
that one thing that I was told before I started streaming is that it really is about building community and friendships with people. And I knew that, like I didn't not believe that, but I didn't know it because I didn't know it from experience. I didn't know how involved that part of it was. Like the way that we check in every day in the Discord, and the way that we can like, even on those, you know, random moments, like unpack some shit that happened in our, you know, in our life experiences, and like you build a kinship. And I think, you know, and I've said this on stream before, but like drag artists, we really are like a public service to our community as well, to the queer community. So to be able to like hold space for people to do all of those things, to do like none of those heavy things, to just have fun even, is really nice. And again, to like get to share my nerdings out with folks. And we've done so many different cool things on the channel too, like the crafting stuff, you know.
What kind
like,
of crafting? Can you go over that a little bit more so people know?
It just depends on like what needs doing at that time. But so like the first one we did, we made slime for one of my photo shoots. So it usually is tied to a photo shoot that I'm working on, meaning like I'm putting together a whole new look, and I want to have it, the first time I wear it, I want it to be really, really beautifully documented. And that way you get the social media content in there, you know what I'm saying? So like, because the costumes also depreciate once you start using them for shows. So it sort of is better to, I think, you know, spend several hours like doing something that you have kind of time to settle into. But yeah, for the last two photo shoots that I did, we did a few different things. We did slime. I showed people how I mix all of my colors for my pastel makeup. And then yeah, last week we did a stoning party. We did just a few like distressing detail hand painting kind of little projects. And I always try to take the audience through like whatever my creative thought process is. So even if I had to work on something off stream, I do still try to show it off and just show people like what it goes into just curating my art.
You brought up making slime, and it just triggered because I've got little kids, and it just triggered so many bad memories in my head.
Yeah.
I was just like shit everywhere.
It's still in our carpet and a couple that we can't get out. So.
Like
Yeah,
I know
it's a great-
Chris is on the same boat as I am. Like, oh yeah, slime's fun when you're an adult. Slime's not fun when you're trying to make it with a 5-year-old, and it goes everywhere.
Yeah, it's a great project for kids, but the kids need to have like structure and preferably tile floors.
Yes.
Which we
Yes.
didn't know at the time.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But all that stuff goes towards like creative projects that then, you know, like I use all my photos for like stuff on the channel. So like it even goes into like people get to see the look and feel of the channel change as I create that content on the stream.
Right. So I will tell you, I had to run off. The kids were calling me for a sec, but
Mhm.
I love this headset because I can hear clear across the house.
Mhm.
And just how excited Kyle got when he heard that bitch pudding streams.
Yes.
So
I thought it was so cool. Like,
but I will tell
She's
you,
a Twitch
Erica,
partner as well.
is she really?
Yeah.
really, she made partner.
Well,
Awesome.
and digital drag has been such a phenomenon. Like they really bitch pudding show, they really like put the formula out there for other channels to start their own digital drag shows. So I'm not gonna say that she was like the very first, but really like when everything shut down, pretty shortly thereafter, they had, you know, herself and Meg, who produces the show, does all the tech and the back end stuff. They created a template for like how to get people to monetize their digital drag.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. So she's another one, like community leader, the house down, as well as a sickening artist.
So do you keep in contact with any of the people who you were on the show with? Like do like say, hey, let's do a stream together, or
Mm,
let's play together, you know, like
I've
multiplayer.
yeah. I've talked to Yovska and Bitch about like co-streaming. As an Aries rising, y'all, I can sometimes be so self-reliant and such a lone wolf that I then don't follow up. So I really need to follow up with them about doing that. Like some sort of co-stream. And co-streams in general, not even just with Dragula artists, but I want
Right.
to do more co-streams in future.
Or like your nerdy new friends.
Hey,
Yeah,
on
like it's just a
Spooky
great
Saturday.
yeah, it's a great way. I mean, we've had Kitty do like Nerd Alert with me, and like we hosted Past Gore.
Mhm.
But like actually doing gaming with other artists, I think it'll be really fun. I just gotta make the time.
We could do Scream Queen Spooky Saturday, and just let it
Oh,
all
that's a
out.
great title. I could do a great picture for that one.
You could. You could.
I have terrible photoshopping skills, and that's what makes them great, Erica.
But great screaming skills when you get scared. So like it balances
Great
out if we
screaming
do
skills.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we talked about your stream a little bit. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your stream. When do you stream? What's your hours? How long is a typical stream for you? I really want to promote the hell out of your channel because this
Yeah.
is how much I really enjoy your channel.
So generally Wednesdays 4 to 8, Thursdays 3 to 9.
And that's Eastern,
then
right?
Eastern time, yes. And I do try to do a third stream. Sometimes I don't. Like for example, when I was performing at Stonewall, I ended up not doing a stream that week. But generally speaking, we keep like one day of the week, kind of a random daytime impromptu. Sometimes that just leaves us like flexibility to do like a night owl stream, or like on Sunday we did crafting and gaming, but that was like our opportunity to do 12 to 6. So I try to keep one day like open, but generally Wednesdays, Thursdays in the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening.
So we are going to post a link to Erika's channel and her Instagram in the bio.
In the bio.
For the YouTube and Anchor and Spotify and every other platform that we're on.
All the links.
All the links.
Be in the
Please
Discord.
Go out and give Erika a follow on Twitch. Please follow her Instagram. Anything else, Erika, you just tell us what you want us to promote and we will. We want to make sure that our listeners get a good taste of just what we've experienced already.
Yeah. I don't know, I think that about covers it. Yeah, we do a mix of things on the channel. Like I said, we do our makeup transformation. We started out the channel doing that a lot. Now we're only really doing it like once a week. Because I would just want a little bit more flexibility. And honestly, like Metroid games, I enjoy them more out of track somehow. I don't know why that is. I think it's just like you have more time to like let it rest. But yeah, we do like now we're doing the crafting streams. We have Nerd Alert on the channel as well. So we do live tapings of Nerd Alert. And so we have like our honorable mention sections. Those are interactive and we're constantly reacting to the chat. And then we then download that whole stream and then turn it into like a 15-minute, like short-ish form bit of content. So
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm trying to sort of experiment with that on Twitch, like the sort of live into a sort of a VOD, right? And yeah, we do on the channel a lot of Pokemon, a lot of Metroid. Obviously, recently we're like hyping up for Metroid Dread. So if you're a Metroid fan, definitely come by on Wednesdays. And then yeah, Nintendo retro, deep cuts, things like that.
Now, I've asked you this on stream before, but I think you've been busy. Have you ever thought about like they did the remake for the Switch of Secret of Mana?
Oh, I think you have mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, that is right up your alley, I think. Just the style and everything else.
I really should check out more. Is that an RPG?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I need to get better at RPGs. I'm not the greatest.
Well, that's what's great about this one. This one was kind of revolutionary. It was for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I have the soundtrack. The
that
soundtrack is beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And Erika plays a lot of video game soundtracks.
Oh yes,
too,
that's another big component of our channel.
Yes.
See, I do a lot of things that that are just unique to me. Like before every gaming segment, we have a VGM of the day. So that's just like me hitting shuffle on my iTunes. Just like, what track do I love that I want to share with everyone? And yeah, we have a lot of like on our BRB screens, we have all my photography. So like, and also when we're doing, we're on break. So when I'm getting dressed, like when I'm done with my makeup, getting ready to be in drag, or if I'm just doing like tech setup in between, we always have like an episode of Nerd Alert or one of our horror streams playing. So there's like a really, really passionate like look and feel for the channel. That if you love like video game music and 8-bit shit and like stuff like that, I think you'd really appreciate.
And I will tell you from experience, there's you go to a lot of channels, they don't monitor the chat. Erika monitors every piece of that chat. I think there's been twice that she hasn't seen my comments, but that's because that chat was so busy.
I feel like I'm being called out right now.
That. You should.
And sometimes it's because I'm like really trying to win something.
Oh yeah, no, you were in the middle of a boss fight both the times this has happened, and so I'm just like, yeah, she's not. This is more important. And I am calling out Kyle a little bit when he.
I feel like I'm the one getting called out for not monitoring. Thanks, Crit. Yeah,
you're welcome. So Kyle does a lot of. I don't know, Erika, you might like this too. He does a lot of role play, the video game role play.
Do a lot of GTA RP. Some Red Dead RP too, which was fun. Red Dead RP was way easier for me to do just because of, I don't know, it fit me personally, I guess. But the GTA RP was also just such a blast.
So he has a character who's Sean Gemini, I believe.
Well, there was two of us. There was Sean, SHAWN Gemini, and then Props, who's also been on the show, was SHAUN Gemini.
So both Sean Gemini.
Yeah,
and they both looked exactly alike.
And we were twins. So that was fun.
It was just kind of fun. So Erika's kind of hit on this too. We know the kind of games that Erika likes are a lot of the classic Nintendo games. Metroid, Pokemon, that kind of stuff. Is there any other genre of games that you really enjoy?
I think that pretty much covers it.
If you don't, it's not a big
I
deal
mean,
either.
The one thing that I was thinking about today, because I've had Godzilla on the brain, is the Godzilla fighting games. I'm not too big on fighting games, but like Smash, and some more Godzilla, I would love to get on the channel a bit more. And yeah, I want to do like, I kind of feel like we need like an oddities section. Like we'll just do one stream of one crazy game. We don't have to do like a full playthrough or anything, but just like, go off with the emulators and all that, right. the difficult stuff, fine stuff.
Maybe throw Rampage, like the old classic Rampage games in there.
That would be fun, yeah.
So I don't know if you knew this or not, but I used to have it on Nintendo when original Nintendo was on. And then they did a remake on I can't remember if it was N64 or Super Nintendo. There was a Godzilla fighting game. You could be Godzilla or Rodan or Mothra or Ghidorah.
Yeah.
And I have seen that on an emulator. So that might be right up your alley, even though fighting games aren't, your favorite.
Yeah,
But it is Godzilla, and you get to be Godzilla, and that is
well,
just
that's
so
what
much
it is.
fun.
That's what it's about for me. Like the Godzilla game on the GameCube, and the one that was on the Wii as well. Like those are some of my favorites. And yeah, it would be fun to nerd out about Godzilla on the channel too.
Yeah. One classic game that anytime retro gaming comes up that I'm going to recommend to everybody to try if you've never tried it. And I know you said like RPGs aren't your thing, but I think I'm kind of picking up on your humor as well. Is a game called Earthbound for Super Nintendo.
Oh,
Yes. No, I definitely
Okay.
like Earthbound. I know that there is a version of Earthbound Beginnings that also is a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
So like even those like fan hacks, like I'm thinking at some point, maybe not before Metroid Dread, but at some point we'll do the original NES Metroid. Someone told me about a modification for it where there's like a map and everything. So like things like that I would like to do. Earthbound for sure, especially because my NES look is the avatar for my channel.
Yep. Oh, and when you were mentioning like looking for character or talking about other characters that you would like to portray, and there was one, and I've been trying to find the character model like this whole show that I thought like this would be an awesome one for Erika to do, and I have not been able to find it yet. I'm still looking through it because
He's really good about that.
I always preach it like that's my favorite game that I've never completed, and I've played it since I was like a little kid, and still haven't beat that game.
He'll find it here in a sec.
I will.
Erika, so speaking of the kind of stuff you like, what kind of movies and TV do you like? Like, do you have favorite movies, favorite shows, favorite genres? What do you like?
Well, of course, I love Dragula because I'm a horror nerd. So when I was in high school, I got really big into Dario Argento's films. I don't know if you're familiar with that director. Italian horror. He did Suspiria.
I'm gonna have to write this down.
That's okay. But yeah,
like, I want to go see
even
this.
Even slashers, like the original Halloween, and that whole series that was big for me. Yeah, so horror nerd, things like that.
That's awesome. So what would, for our final question, what would you like people to know about you? What parting gift, what parting thoughts would you like people to remember about you?
I don't know. I just want to spread joy. That's like what drag comes down to. It's like I want to be happy, and what I do makes other people happy, and that's really like the ultimate thing, is like, again, that being the fairy godmother of the queer community. Like, how do you, just again spread joy,
right?
So, and also I think like I would hope that I leave behind, a little coffee table book of like all this amazing art that I created, and that made other people happy. So,
which is awesome. I think you're accomplishing your job.
Thank you.
You've pulled me in. You've pulled my wife in. You've pulled Kyle in. He became a fan. I will tell you though, when he was watching your season of Dragula, he did text me. He goes, "I think Monique could kick my ass."
Yeah, I had a real fear there. Like, yeah, Monique could kick my ass. But one thing I did get from the show, and I was wanting to get this in. This is the perfect time for it. There was, for lack of a better word, a lot of, and I'm sure there's probably some of the editing and different things, and you do not have to get into that at all. There's a lot of sassiness. Like a lot of overt sassiness that happened from in the boudoir scenes and things. And like, I get that some of that stuff has to kind of get upselled for the show and things like that. But I really, really, really appreciate, like, you were like the mediator. You were like,
You were
like,
the
let's-
calm, collected one.
Yes. Yeah. As much as you could be up to a point.
Yeah.
And like I appreciated that so much. Like there's like it's a competition and everybody's going, but you were just like, listen, guy, like we're in this together. And let's support each other. Let's do this. Like you were so positive through everything. And I appreciated the hell out of that so much watching it, because so many of these competition shows they really upsell the cutthroatness of things.
Mhm.
And just like that was so refreshing to see that this person is being this way, and then that we get to actually talk with this person later. Like it was that
Awesome.
that made me happy.
Erica to me is the Great British Baking Show, because that is the nicest competition I have ever seen in my life.
It's so nice. They're so nice.
No, they don't. It's not like I'm, like Hell's Kid. I'm gonna screw that bitch over. Fuck her.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
British. Hey, I finished. Hey, let me stir this for you. Let me put this in the oven. I'm gonna help you. That's Erica to me.
Yep, I loved it.
It's not an exaggeration. That's
I
what we
absolutely loved it.
appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with that, Erica, would you like to play a little game with us that we play on the show?
I think I would like to check in with my sister before she has to go to sleep.
Oh, no problem. No, not a problem there. So, well, thank you so much. We want to, again, thank you so much for joining the show and agreeing to talk to us.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
It was a great time.
I had a blast.
And we're going to ask you some, I got one other thing to tell you before we let you go here after we end this, Erica.
Yeah.
So with that, this has been Every Man's Guide to Nerddom. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kyle. And wherever you guys are, have a good evening, a good morning, good night, whatever it is, whatever time you are, and please be good to each other.
And again, thank you so much to the lovely Erika Klash for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nerd
Bye-bye.
Could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore could rise up. It could get elevated. Nerdcore used to be just a made-up word. MCs shied away.